Today I stand currently at an age of 37. I'm literally as old as this regime. But I've managed to become successful within the prevailing realistic circumstances on ground. And I'm here to present to you, in my personal opinion, what do I think I do different that we can adopt, not just as politicians, but all Ugandans at large, to see that we carry this country forward. And in my opinion, I think it is reason and reality. For reason is existent in each and every element of the human cycle. We all think, but very few people extend up to what I would call reason. I wrote the book, most things when I say them physically, they may sound a little bit, but let me know majority of you read my book. Reasoning is that ability to have a critical analysis and assessment of the prevailing circumstances before you in any aspect or challenge of life. The ability to understand a problem and create a corresponding solution to such a problem. You can never find a solution to a problem you fail to understand. In life, there are limited resources, that's why man is unlimited wants, as a general perspective and an economic term. But it is within perimeters of reason that he who has the ability to outcompete others on those available resources that makes it to actual prosperity. That is why not just limited to individuals, but as far as to nations, we are all graded and judged within our budgets and incomes. So I believe, yes, government does come up with a lot of programs, including Operation Wealth Creation, but it will be very difficult to successfully implement majority of these programs for as long as the mindset of ordinary Ugandans on ground, who are the principals in this journey towards prosperity, have failed to adjust their minds within perimeters of reason. It is a fact that Uganda has very good climate. It is a fact that Uganda stands with fertile soils. It is a fact that Uganda currently has the largest number of what we call the youth. Mama, when the government came into power in 1986, Uganda had approximately 13 million people. Today, Uganda is standing at a population of approximately, we're aiming for 46 million people. But out of a population of 46 million people, majority, approximately 33 million, are as old or below the age this government has existed in power. The government is doing all it can, but for as long as we don't tackle that element of reasoning capacity, it will be very hard to implement government policies and structures on ground. When you look at factors like taxation currently today, despite the fact that we have 46 million Ugandans, we have a tax base of approximately 1.6 million Ugandans. How can a population of 1.6 million Ugandans cater for all the needs of a society of 46 million Ugandans? Meaning that 45 million Ugandans are, I don't want to sound rude, but they have become a liability to the prosperity of the nation. But the funny thing, we fail to address the issue of reason to these youngsters. They have failed to take personal responsibility and an obligation to make sure that it is their responsibility to carry themselves forward at an individual level, but equally to carry the nation forward from poverty to prosperity. So, and the only way we can, actually, if I go to the legislature as well, you find that in Uganda, every year our budget is going up, but the tax base is not growing. So, instead of focusing, and what happens whenever you go to parliament, you end up increasing taxes on the already existing limited taxpayers, instead of actually looking on how we can widen the tax base. So, I believe if we can focus on making laws to see how we can widen the tax base from the existing 1.6 million Ugandans to at least 5 or 10 million Ugandans, What is happening with the tax frameworks that are coming into action today is that it is erasing the few that can move into other factors like agro-processing and value addition. For agro-processing and value addition is the only clear direct path forward for the country, because it is the only industry that has got capacity to employ majority of Ugandans. But it requires investment in terms of setting integrated agro-processing plants to create demand for produce, so that farmers, once they produce these commodities, they have got a market. To promote things like import substitution, currently we're importing things for approximately 7.8 billion a year. Now, and majority of these things are agro. Why not add value on our commodities instead of importing them in the raw perspective for peanuts, and we buy them back from these foreign countries at 10 or 20 times the price? Why not look for the market through this integrated agro-processing plant? I'm talking to you, honorable members of parliament, because at the end of the day, you are the people that draft the laws. We should have more of a realistic and reasonable perspective approach towards the development of the country, rather than putting majority of the youth in a comfortable state that they have the freedom to continuously request government or put government at ransom to give them good schools, to give them nice roads, without necessarily being participants in the process of developing the country. It is totally unfair to have a population of 46 million Ugandans when only 1.6 million Ugandans are paying taxes. I go back to reason. You see, reason looks at that done rather than that would be done. I'm discussing Uganda for what it is today, not for what I ought it to be. Reason looks at substance rather than formation. With reason, the end justifies the means. So, for as long as the mind cannot comprehend government processes, now we have operation like Operation Minds, Operation Wealth Creation, where government can get money. It gives these youth maybe seeds for 5 million. They will either dry on the verandas, or someone will take those seeds and say, can someone give me 500,000 cash so that I go drink? So the problem may not be in government policies. The problem is in the mindset of Ugandans. So, Mama, I'm here with an humble request. Just like the NRM government waged war against the past regimes in 1986, I think the government should wage a war on mindset change. And Mama, it is my honor and I'm humbled to present you today, because for the first time in the Ministry of Education, at least we are seeing reforms in accordance, in line with our current education systems, to see how our education system can fit within the realistic perimeters of the needs of the nation. But it is in my humble opinion, in addition to what is being done, if majority have read my book, I described an education system as a tool or a system that is being introduced to a society to prepare people of a certain society on how they can engage the day-to-day challenges and provide corresponding solutions to those problems. Mama, it is unfortunate that the biggest percentage of our education sector today was imported and imposed. So it doesn't necessarily reflect our day-to-day challenges. So I'm of the humble request, if reason and reality can be introduced within the reforms that the ministry is trying to bring up, so that the syllabus is being introduced to our young generation reflects the problems we have at hand. Also, Mama and honorable members of Parliament, as you are in Parliament making laws, we have a very big challenge when it comes to our banking sector. Our banking sector is the number one controller of our finances, being regulated by Bank of Uganda. But the foreign banks operating in Uganda today, they are more of exploitative than developmental. First and foremost, they are so undercapitalized. They don't come in with capital. In fact, it's so unfair that they operate within savings and deposits of Ugandans, those people you see working in markets in most cases. If we are to go for a robust integrated agro-processing plant, we need substantial capital to invest into this industry. But if our current banking sector does not have the capacity to give us a push, then how shall we move forward? So I'm of the humble request that government, maybe through the regulator Bank of Uganda, they request these banks, foreign banks, if they are to make money here, they should recapitalize their banks. And also they have a tendency of profit repatriation. These banks take each and everything out of the country. It is like a financial broom that sweeps everything out of the country, year in, year out. How can we possibly develop when these people are taking everything? Mama, it is also a reasonable realist fact, because yes, we might be Ugandan, but at the end of the day, we're equally Africans. It is very unfortunate that the West looks at us from a poor perspective, and that is how they define us. But you'll find that Africa holds 80% of the world's resources. Then their survival is dependent on the resources they get from here. So the question remains, we the Africans today, or Ugandans, and the West, who is donating to who? We should simply sit down and reason out how we can explore the existing resources towards our own prosperity. But Mama, all in all, I still focus on reason. Reason being that when you give someone reason, you've given them the future. For me as a businessman, I wouldn't want to call someone a failure. But regardless of how much money we put into the economy or saturation, for as long as these youth don't have the reasoning capacity to make these sums of money productive, it will be very hard as a nation to move forward. Because in business, a weak mind, I think it is the most polite word I can use. A weak mind is like letter zero. There is no capital that is big enough for a weak mind. Even if I gave you 10 billion, even if I gave you 20 billion, you'll still waste it for as long as you multiply it to zero. So if we put the mind right, I think we shall put our economy in the right direction. Ugandans must be part of the problems. They must be direct participants if we are to see Uganda grow. This idea of giving them comfort that it is okay, no, it is not okay. It is not okay. You just have to be. It is unfair for you to hold government accountable for taxes you haven't paid. So how do we bring more Ugandans on board so that they are more productive and they can see this nation move forward? And we can't take a forceful approach. Like for instance, we can't get borders going back to villages, no, forcefully. But since we are running a liberal economy, when you look at factors of demand and supply, if we can make a robust integrated agro-processing plant where tilling your land in Chiboga becomes much more profitable than actually riding a border in Kampala, you'll be forced to move into villages. So we shall have more people moving into villages and less people moving into town. Because urbanization is one of, with a good climate, as a fertile soils and good energetic population, it is unfair. It is unfair. Ugandans have been unfair to the nation. That's what I can say. We need to give those youth direction, and I think it should start with members, honorable members of parliament. When they are forming laws, they should make laws that make Ugandans participants in the prosperity of our nation. Thank you very much.